We'll get started. So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on on-premise to SaaS migration made simple. We're fortunate to have quite a few presenters today. I will let them do a formal introduction, but we will be also sharing some success stories from our professional services team. So I will just remind you that there is the Q&A section of Zoom. So if you haven't used Zoom before, at the bottom you should find where you can ask questions. We will leave you all muted at the start, but we should have roughly around 15 to 20 minutes at the end where you can answer, we will answer live questions. The other reminder is we will be recording this and sharing this out on YouTube. So please be aware if you do speak with us, if you can just take a minute or so to read this legal notice, we will be putting it onto YouTube and some of our social platforms. So this is also part of a series of webinars. So we've done already 2 of them that have been recorded. This is the 3rd session. So if there are any sessions that you've missed, particularly as this is the only one that we've put into the series, we will add them together and share you the other links as well, which will help you get some feedback on some of the work that Anitha and Murali, her colleague, have done. And obviously any questions, we will be writing up the Q&A. Everything that's shared today will be shared post-event. So without further ado, I'm going to now hand over to Anitha, who will do her introduction, and then we will finish with JP and Carlos, who will do their introduction as well. So over to you, Anitha.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. This is Anitha Raja from BMC. I work in SEAL team, and I'm very happy to present you this session on this on-prem to SaaS migration process. So I'll be presenting the stages that are involved in the end-to-end process for the migration. Before that, I would like to talk about a few points about how migrations are made simpler. So we have got some automation introduced in activation of environments. So that made it easier to coordinate different teams like network team, SaaS team, and everyone to work together and give you the provision of environments. And then we have made some self-service automations available in development staging server, where you can just create some self-service request to stop services, to start services, and you can make a request to take golden data backups and also to restore DB backups. And we have also made some of the utilities or tools made available to the partners and customers doing these migrations. So those utilities include workflow migration, license conversion, and auto recon. We will talk more about these utilities in the further stages. And then we also have enhanced the automation of the DB refresh process. And then we have got automation to perform the health check assessment, which we will be discussing in the final stage. So let me go through the each stages that are involved in on-prem to SaaS migration. We'll be covering preparing implementation and project plans. This is basically the preparation stage. And then second stage include activation tasks. Third would be kind of development activities. And fourth is data migration. We go for unit testing and EC1, where we cover Delta data migration. And we do UAT at stage 7. And pre-final data migration at stage 8, and another EC2 at stage 9, and finally go live. So this is the graphical representation of the end-to-end process diagram, where we can see the various stages and the tasks involved in various stages. You can also see at which environment we will be performing, like are we doing it in dev server, or are we doing it in on-prem development server? So that is well explained in this diagram. So the supported migration paths from ITSM include source version right from 8.1 version. And then for digital workplace, we support from 2002 and later version. And for catalog, we support from 2002 version. And for smart reporting, also we cover from 2002 and later. And for smart IT, we support right from 1805 till 2002. So let's talk about how do we plan infrastructure in on-prem. So in on-prem, we would recommend you to set up a dedicated server for doing the development work. wherein you will be downloading and installing the development tools like Developer Studio, AR Import, and this client. And then we will have a tool server which is dedicated to download and install all these migration tools, which covers this HTM, Helix Data Manager, and we have data migration utility for DWP, and workflow migration utility, license conversion utility, and auto recon. We always recommend to download the latest versions. And then we need to have a database server in which we will create a copy of production DB, so that can be used to used as a source by HTM and DWP migration tools to export the data. So let's talk about license conversion utility. So this utility will help us to convert the classic licenses from your on-prem system to the bundle licenses in SaaS environment. So this utility will help us to do assessments and will also help us to perform the conversion in the SaaS environment. So before migration, we need to run the utility in the assessment mode on your production against your production system. So this utility will basically generate a report. So it will be a spreadsheet with the different sheets. There will be a data sheet where the raw data will be populated, which will have all the login IDs and associated classic license information from your current production environment. So the utility also will populate recommended bundle license type against each user in the same raw data sheet. So there will be other sheets like summary and validation, where we can find the details about the total users configured with classical licenses, and we can also find out the required number of bundle licenses to be purchased. So it gives us all the statistical data which is needed to assess and find out the number of bundle licenses to be purchased. Meanwhile, you can also prepare the bundle license report for running that in conversion mode at later stage. You may have to fill in the bundle license type that you want to assign for each user in customer approved license types. There will be a column named customer approved license type in raw data sheet. So there you can start filling in the bundle license which you want to assign to a particular user. So that's about this utility. So we will talk about conversion in the later stage. So when we talk about the bundle license, there are three types of bundle licenses: a suite, service desk, and service optimization. When we assign a user with a suite bundle license, he or she can access the applications like incident management, problem management, KM, SRM, asset management, etc. If the person is assigned with service desk bundle license, he can only access incident management, problem management, knowledge management, and SRM. So there is another type called service optimization, which when assigned, a person can access asset management, SLM, financial management, and change management. So based on this license assessment, we can prepare the number of bundle license that are required to be purchased. And then you can purchase the required bundle license. Once purchased, you can apply these bundle licenses into your SaaS environment by using AR system form called add or remove license form. So now let's talk about the planning documents. So there are a set of documents that are really needed to perform, estimate the tasks that are needed in your migration. So for that, we provide templates that will greatly help you in, doing the assessment. So partners can work with the BMC counterparts to get the link to download these templates. So these templates includes implementation planning questionnaire and project plan template, and also go live templates. So you can perform assessment and define the scope of work and the output implementation plan, data migration plan, and project plan. So let's talk more about this questionnaire, how it will help you. Like the questionnaire will have embedded SQL scripts that will help you to understand many aspects like integrations, configurations, and what is your data volume, database size, etc. So with this information, you will be able to assess your environment, assess your current scope, and then create the plans accordingly. Also in project plan, you can refer to the project plan template, and you can include all the low-level tasks so that you can achieve the project very smoothly. Like in the project plan, if you have some tasks that is to be worked upon by Helix SaaS team, we recommend you to create 2 tasks in the project plan. One would be performed by customers or partners to raise the ticket that at least 4 to 7 days before the activity to be implemented. And then the second task is for the actual implementation performed by SaaS team. So if at all there is, some delays in making progress, you can escalate the support tickets, and also OSS and OSM will be helping you to speed up the process. So once assessing and creating the implementation plan, you will be able to capture and scope your customization details, your integrations, configurations, and additional development work in your implementation plan. And in your data migration plan, you will be capturing details about data volume and database size, and what are the custom forms and fields that are in your source environment and that are to be mapped in your HTML migration pack. So all these details will be captured in these plans. So this is stage 1, where after preparation, we actually entering into the stage 1 that includes activation, provisioning of environments. So for provisioning, a customer or partner need to complete the ordering process, and SaaS team will complete activation and provisioning of below environments. And they will also configure one inbound and one outbound email for each environment. And they will also create a permanent FTP location with inbound and outbound folders, which you can use to place your files for integration purposes. Once that is done, you can review the complete list of your products and validate these applications are available in your activated systems. And another important thing is to setting up the client gateway. For that, you need to download and install the casing client gateway in your on-prem system. And then you need to create a lifecycle request for BMC client management gateway connectivity. So BMC team then will work on this connectivity request, and then we will configure the client gateway, which will connect to your Helix SaaS environment. And then you will be able to verify your connectivity using any development tools like or client tools like a Developer Studio. So this client gateway configuration file, you need to include your ports that you will be used to support integrations like LDAP and any other third-party integrations. All those details should be filled in your configuration file. Also, it is needed for a remote desktop connectivity to the development staging server so that you can perform the development activities. Okay, so you need to create server staging server access request form. So there they will be provisioning a staging server with installed like HTM and DWP utility and all the tools that are needed for the migrations. And they will also set up a development database with the out-of-the-box database from the freshly deployed image of BMC ITSM. And then they will also configure temporary FTP locations which you can use for the file transfers for HTM and DWP utility. So these details, once configured, BMC team will send the details and connectivity details via email. Let's talk about RSSO and SAML authentication. So we need to configure SAML activation using by creating a realm and then configuring the realm. We can have the guide step which gives you a step-by-step instructions to configure this. And also we need to set up this Helix single sign-on as a service provider, and you can configure the Active Directory. So there is a link for the guide here also. So the stage 3 would be development work. So at this stage, we suggest you to do freeze restrictions. So we strongly recommend you to not perform any form or field level changes which would affect the data dictionary that is captured in the Helix Data Manager. So in case of any other workflow changes or any unavoidable changes that you need to perform, you should track it, and then it should be well documented so that at stage 8, where we perform the pre-final data migration, we will be able to get in all those delta workflows as well. So now we will have to move our customizations and overlays from your source to the target. So for that, we now have the option to use workflow migration utility. If your source is of version 20.02 and above, you can use this utility. And then otherwise, you can make use of Developer Studio and Deployment Console user interface. So let me explain about workflow migration utility. So this has a 12-step process. You can either run all the steps at once, or you can also run a step one by one. So the first step will migrate group and roles from the source to the target. And the second step will have all the custom classes and attributes will be migrated. The utility will compare the metadata between the source and destination CMDBs and migrate the differences. At step 3, will validate the CMDB migration, which was completed in step 2, and it will ensure that it is accurate and complete. In step 4, all the missing base objects will be migrated, and in step 5, the utility exports base overlaid objects and stores them into the file system. These will be used for auto recon and manual 3-way reconciliation in later stages. So step 6 will migrate applications and regular overlay forms from the source to target. Step 7 will rebuild unions without enum. And in step 8, the utility will sync asset forms with CMDB changes migrated in step 2 to ensure that asset forms are in sync with CMDB classes and attribute changes. And at step 9, utility will migrate the remaining forms such as join, view, display, as well as the workflows, including active links, filters, etc. And step 10 will migrate auto-generated objects. Step 11 will validate the migration of overlay objects performed in the previous step. And in step 12, utility will trigger the auto recon utility to automatically reconcile overlay objects without conflicts between the base and overlay changes. If auto recon cannot be performed, it will generate a manual recon report per object type to be reconciled using Developer Studio. If you will not be using workflow migration utility, there are other options or to migrate via using Developer Studio or Deployment Console. You can run auto recon utility manually here in this step with the definition files as the input parameters. And then you can run the auto recon for each objects like forms, filters, etc. Following the auto recon, we need to perform this manual three-way reconciliation. So as we discussed, auto recon will generate the XML files for the objects which it cannot reconcile. So that XML output should be, the file should be placed in the Developer Studio workplace. And then you can log into the Developer Studio, connect into your new development server. And then you can navigate to AR System Navigator Recon application. And then you will be able to find the objects to reconcile. We need to reconcile, and you can make decisions on performing the reconciliation there. So we need to complete this three-way reconciliation and make sure that all your customization and overlays are reconciled and are well migrated to the target system. At this stage, we can perform any other custom development work, which includes for DWP, digital workplace, we can do some allowed customizations or branding. Similarly, for smart IT, we can do customizations or branding. And if you want to create some service catalogs, you can do that now. And then Helix dashboards, you can create reports. And if you are using smart reporting, we recommend you to convert them into Helix dashboards. Okay, now let's talk about integrations. So here is the list of BMC Helix applications that you can integrate with, like Discovery, Virtual Chat, VCCM, etc. And we also support third-party integrations using REST API, Web Services, AR API, and CMDB API. If at all, if you have any integrations that use some methods which are not supported, you need to redesign those integrations. Now we come to data migration stage, which is stage 4. So for this, as we discussed, we need to create the copy of production database in your on-prem system that will be used as source for both HTM and DWP utility. And we need to both these utilities in both on-prem tool server and development staging server. Ensure that the same version of HTM is installed in both the instances. So we can migrate data reporting. Please remember, we can support only smart reporting till 2105, and then later should be converted to dashboards. And using DWP export import utility, you can migrate data for digital workplace. So the pre-migration step for ITSM is to run the clear down, because the out of the box data will have some sample data like Calbro services data. So we need to clear down that. There is an option available in the HTM itself using clear down migration pack. You will be able to run a job which will back up your data and then delete it. So if in case if the data is to be restored at any point, we can do that using that backup. So conventionally, we use this clear down pack to clear down the sample data of Calbro services. And also we have this script made available to the customer and partners for DWPC pre-migration, wherein there are a lot of data stored in these processing forms which are considered obsolete, because once the data is processed, once the records are processed, these data become obsolete. So we have a script that will clean up the data and only retain the latest data in these tables. So you can make use of that clean up scripts to clear down a lot of data, and then which will improve the performance, like in terms of speed in the migrations. Okay, let's talk about the migration steps. So as we have discussed, we will be having 2 instances of HTM, one in on-prem and another in development staging server. So the prerequisite is discussed, like we will create a staged database server with the production copy of a database that will be registered as source. So the source system will be registered as type local in HTM, and the target will be registered as type remote because it cannot access the target system. So it will be registered as of type remote, and we'll be creating a HTM user in the source database. Similarly, in the development staging server, like we need to register the source as remote and target as local and create a HTM user. We can discover source data dictionary in on-prem and discover target data dictionary in SaaS. So this target data dictionary is required for in the on-prem system for further processing. So we need to copy the data dictionary file from the metadata folder and send it like SFTP the same from the cloud to your on-prem environment. So once the data discovery metadata is available, you can import it in your on-prem HTM and then link it to your target system. Now the source and target are ready, and then we can configure the file system connections. This file system will just let the HTM know where to write the exported data. So we can download the template migration packs, and you need to create your own working copy by copying this migration pack to your source and target dictionaries. Now in the custom migration pack, you can add your custom forms, and you need to review if there are any form mapping issues. You have to resolve all the form mapping issues, and then you can make the migration pack published. So once the pack is set to published state, you will be able to run the export job. This export job will write the data into the file system, and then that data packages are to be SFTP'd from your on-prem to cloud environment. Now in the cloud, in the SaaS development staging server, you can configure the file system connection. You have to mention the folder from which the HTM will need to, import the data from. So you will be placing the, transfer the data files into the particular folder. And also you need to download the data packages and import the metadata files. And you can run import job from that data package. So once data migration is complete, there are some post-migration scripts that is available in ITSM. For that, have to go to this is HTM screen. You have to go to the ITSM target and click on administrate, and you can run the scripts. So these scripts will include some of the DB queries that you can execute at this stage itself. That will be, updating computed groups and setting next IDs, etc. You can see the template and you can see the list of scripts that will be executed here. So this is the process for HTM from the steps from 1 to the previous import step what we have described. That is the whole process for all the applications. But the difference would be on the migration pack that will be used. So for each applications, we have a defined migration pack that we will have to use, and also there are some changes like in the way that we register the system, or there are some pre and post migration scripts that are specific to the applications. So by using the end-to-end process guide, you will be able to perform the migrations for ITSM, Helix Digital Workplace Catalog, and Smart Reporting, Smart IT. And we can create a gold bill backup too. And we recommend you to take a gold bill backup too after completing migration of each applications and overwrite it, so that after all the applications are migrated, you can just take a final gold bill backup too. So let's talk about digital workplace. So DWP utility is only used for migrating data for DWP. The data will include components like location, calendar, service, help, etc. that is residing in business schema, and the components like providers, SMTP configurations, user sessions that are available in your system schema. So there are 3 steps in running this DWP export import utility. The step 1 would be setting up your export utility in your on-prem tool server. And once the data is exported, you SFTP the exported data package to your development staging server. And then in step 3, in your development staging server, you set up the import utility and import the data. Let's see some more details in export utility, how we will set up this. So you can download the DWP data migration export import utility tool from EPD. And then once, you get that downloader unzipped, you will be able to see export folders. With that, you can set up an export utility in your on-prem tool server. And it will have some folders named connection scripts, etc. So we need to configure 2 major, property files here. One is connection property, which is for providing the source DWP database details. So the DWP export utility directly do the DB access. It interacts with the DB and read data from your DWP database. So for that, we need to provide all the required database details like host, DB host name, port, and the business system schema details, and the user credentials to access those business and system schema details. So there is another configuration that is to be done in set_environment file, which is majorly a kind of environmental parameters that you need to set up for export. So when you are done with the configuration, you will be able to run the export using run_export file. The exported data will be saved in a zip file. We need to transfer that zip file from your on-prem to the SaaS server. And then you need to set up the import utility in your development staging server. You can place the exported data zip file under the scripts folder. And then you need to configure some environmental variables to run the import, which are defined in your process guide. And then you can run the import. So this will make the DWP data migration complete. So once the data of all the applications are migrated, we need to run this license conversion utility in conversion mode. So running this utility in conversion mode will change the people profile, the license information from the classic license to the bundled licenses. So stage 5 is performing unit testing. So we need to enable full mode in the development server. And for that, you can just create a self-service request and you can perform unit testing. You need to fix any customization or functional issues, and you need to create the deployment packages. You need to make sure that all your fixes are managed via the cases, and the package and the fixes are exported as packages. You can make use of self-service requests to restore to the gold build backup to, and then apply the fixes that you have found, done for the issues during the unit testing. After applying fixes, you need to override the gold build backup. You can make a self-service request to do that. And also you need to create a self-service request to set the system in quiet mode. Okay, so here the project team should validate the end users UAT test cases also. So this is how you can move the fixes using deployment console. Now let's talk about Delta data migration. A Delta data migration is a special type of migration which will only migrate data belonging to a specific window. So there are two benefits. One of it is like it gives us an opportunity to discover the issues that we may encounter during go live. And also it will help us to determine the duration which are required for Delta export and import, and for performing count validation and post migration tasks. So we can time these activities. So for performing Delta data migration using HTM, you need to get the latest on-prem production database copy, and then you need to register that as source, and you can create a self-service request to stop all AI services, and you can run incremental data migration. Let's see how to run that using HTM. So as you can see, this is a migrate data, like creating the job in HTM, wherein in export template, we have a specific template called all data incremental. Once we select this, we will be able to give inputs as incremental start and incremental end dates, which will cover the Delta window. And then you just have to do the confirm migration to export that Delta data, and you can transfer the packages to SaaS and then create a data, import job for those packages. Also, after completing this Delta data migration, we need to perform post-migration steps and complete the form count analysis. Now we need to create a self-service request to create the golden backup 3, which will have the data, Delta data for HTM, ITSM and DWP catalog. It is optional to perform Delta data migration for DWP catalog because, some instances we don't have much data in that for that Delta window. So it is optional to perform also smart IT, smart reporting Delta migrations. So now we can create a self-service request to replace the existing golden backup 3 after each application migration, the services in quiet mode. Also after performing the Delta data migration, we need to run this license conversion utility in conversion mode, which will convert licenses for the people profiles which are migrated as part of Delta data. Now we come to stage 7. In stage 7 UAT, we recommend you to perform the functional UAT testing and also, in the QA environment, and we need to define the number of UAT cycles that we need to include in the project. Also, in the production environment, you can perform functional UAT test cases, plus you need to perform integration testing and load performance testing in your production environment. So we need to complete all the testing cycles and make sure that all the blocker issues are fixed and you get the UAT sign off. So that's let's complete the UAT cycle and make all the required fixes, and then we need to create the packages. The UAT fixes should be fixed on the development staging server, and with the use of deployment console, you need to export the fixes and create the packages and import the packages to the other environments like QA and production to validate the fixes. As we said, we need to add multiple UAT cycles as per the project, and you can complete all those testing and get a UAT sign off. Now we perform this pre-final data migration. After the UAT is signed off, we can prepare the system for final data migration plus Delta data migration. We need to make sure that we have the packages for all the customizations. We have the packages for all the issues and fixes for functional issues. And we also have all the configuration or environment issues are fixed in all environment. So any environmental configuration issues that you have raised, you need to make sure that the SaaS team is applying the configuration changes to all the 3 environments. At this stage, we are enabling freeze restrictions, and we will be going back to Golden Backup 1. And we need to migrate the Delta workflow changes that you have performed in your production system to the new production system. The detailed steps are here for the pre-final data migration and validation. We are restoring to Golden Backup 1, and then we are applying all the fixes and applying all the code packages developed during UAT cycles. Now we export the Delta data workflows or customizations, and we do perform a 3-way reconciliation for the Delta workflows. Now you can create a self-service to create a Gold Backup 3 and perform a full data migration using HTM for ITSM, DWPC Smart IT and Smart Reporting, and you can use DWP import utility to migrate data for DWP. Now we need to create and replace this Gold Backup 3, and you can create a request to enable the server in quiet mode. You can verify all the configuration and environment fixes are there, and you can perform the final testing. Now we can come to stage 9. In the final emulated cutover 2, we will perform the following activities. So this activity is to be performed not earlier than 8 to 10 days, because there will be no testing cycle after this activity. So we need to make sure that issues are uncovered during the final testing and perform an incremental migration, Delta data migration for ITSM and DWPC. So again, the 2 benefits are like getting the updated data will help us to get perform a quicker final Delta data migration during go live window. And we also recommend to record timings so that we can well define the go live template. So this process include exporting the Delta data for all applications and import the data files to the development staging server and perform the import. We also have to perform the post-migration steps. And you can create a change request to backup and replace the existing Gold Bill number 3 and create a ticket to set the development staging server in quiet mode And you need to time each activity. That will help us to plan the go live. So you need to make sure that all these activities are there in your project plan. So now we come to the final stage, stage 10, where you can refer to the go live template here, which will have details of all the tasks that will be performed in the go live window. So if for this activity, you need to create the ticket 7 to 10 days before actual go live, because the change request is needed for the database refresh, for the final database refresh from the development staging server to your production. And there should be a Salesforce ticket created for performing the health check assessment. So our go live template will include internal communication with the cutover details and the steps to perform the shutdown of on-prem instances. The suggested steps are there, like you need to perform this one by one for shutting down the on-prem instance, like disabling all the integration, disabling on-prem monitoring, etc., as shown here. And you perform final data migration, and you have a detailed task for each of the activities. And final DB refresh, which will be performed by SaaS team, where they will be doing the DB refresh from your development staging server to the production. And health check assessment, as we said, we have an automation, and in that, as part of health check assessment, we will perform all these steps. We'll make sure that URL is accessible. We'll check on CMDB thread configuration and tuning. We will do this email engine configuration and tuning. We'll also do escalation pools configuration, and we'll implement RLS subquery, ATM console accessibility is verified, and etc. as shown here. So the customer or partner can perform a smoke test here, where you can validate the URLs, and you can do a functionality validation, and then you can also verify the integrations are working fine. Okay, so we also need to ensure that all your work that are in the development staging server are moved to production, and all the pending work is backed up before decommissioning the staging server. So this is the final go live. We identify and fix any blockers, if any, and we can make go for a go or no go decision, and finally to the go live. Okay, with this, I think I've come to the end of my presentation, and I'm handing over to Carlos to present customer success stories. Over to you, Carlos.
Thank you, Anita. Hello, everyone. I am Carlos Checa, a project architect in BNC Professional Services Organization. Today, alongside Jose Pedro Teixeira, we are going to speak about few customer success migration stories. These stories are a testimony of how best practices and a good strategy can make the health migration simple. I'll start by telling the history of one of our customers in the fashion industry. They were interested in keeping their processes unchanged, but leverage the new capabilities on SaaS. After this history, we will cover a few more examples of customer migration to health in different industries, from banking to retail or airport management. These customers had different goals. Some had partners supporting them. Others were undertaking massive transformation programs. Another simply wanted to move to SaaS, ensuring no business disruption. These circumstances led to different strategies, but following best practices, our standard methodologies, and the tools as presented by Anita, we were able to make this migration simple. We will do our best to leave some time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, but feel free to drop any question on the chat at any time. Without further ado, let's dive into the first customer success migration history. This first case is a project executed for one of the largest fashion distribution company in the world. In this case, the on-premise configuration were aligned with the business goals. In fact, the IT support to all the stores around the world relies on a Helix platform advanced configuration. Additionally, the customer expressed a clear desire to retain transactional data in Helix. The final goal of this customer was to have additional capabilities that allow them to shift from focus the technical administration to optimizing the business processes. Given these factors, we determined that a lift and shift project was the optimal strategy. This approach allowed us to migrate the customer to Helix while maintaining current processes and historical data. At the same time, the platform's new features were activated. The migration project was structured in 4 major activities: workflow, data, integration, and reporting. For workflow, we migrated a standard customization using tools that like Developer Studio or CMDB driver, while non-standard customization were remediated. Regarding the data, transactional and configuration data was migrated using Helix Data Manager. After making some minor adjustment at the beginning of the project to the migration packages, Helix Data Manager became a key tool for the success of the migration. In terms of integration and reporting, the Atrium Integrator connectors, the external application, the web services, and the reporting were simply repointed to Helix. Next slide, please, Anita. Thank you. Let's analyze the conclusion and understand why this project was executed with simplicity. The first conclusion was that the standard customization were migrated smoothly. However, we must dedicate a lot of effort to remediate the non-standard customization. Therefore, the conclusion here is clear. We encourage you to follow the best practices for any customization in order to avoid any type of problem in the future. The second conclusion that we got was that to identify the correct strategy in this case was the key. We realized that the initial migration to Helix without any process transformation would provide the customer with the enhanced capabilities. Later, the customer leveraged these capabilities, implementing automation of processes using digital workplace workflows, new REST API integration, new business processes on business workflows, new virtual agents use cases, etc. Now, Jose Pedro will tell an interesting service management transformation history on the airport management industry. Please, Jose Pedro, over to you.
Thank you, Carlos, for this great story. So, as Carlos said, this next customer that we are going to see, this customer success migration story, is mostly about transformation. So, while companies like the previous one look at migrations as enablers to leverage new capabilities that we get out of a modernized platform, others like this leading airport management company, they see migrations to SaaS as enablers for their transformation strategies. Now, in this case, we are looking at the customer that has been using our service and operations management solutions for more than 20 years. So very old customer with legacy versions of our suite. So we are talking about migrating ITSM, and in this case, BPPM, to the full Helix suite. So this includes migrating to ITSM, DWP. We've also introduced 2 different line of business and business workflows, Discovery, BHUM, with AIOps use cases, and also BHCO. So by no means, so this was a small endeavor, trust me. There was a lot of things needed to take into account. But if we go back to, oh, I'm sorry, can you move to the next slide, please? Just realized, oh no, go to the first one. I didn't, yeah, okay. Next one. Next one. There we go. Go. There. Thank you. So back to their goals. For this company, it was not only about leveraging what we have in SaaS, the new capabilities and the platform, etc., but they were immersed internally in a shift left process. They were looking into standardizing their whole processes across the multiple airports. So at this time, each airport had different processes. They wanted to normalize that. And they ultimately, they were looking to improve user experience, proactivity, predictability. So, but not everything was about changing. I think this is the key point in this story. While they wanted to change, to transform, they also had things that were working pretty well. So they had a strong asset management process, and obviously they had core business integrations that needed to be available. So, and this is where all the best practices that Anita just mentions and all the tools that we saw came into place. So, and they helped us move what was working fine simply, while the customer could dedicate and get confidence that this key process will be migrating without disruption, while they can focus on transformation and leveraging and seeing how they would leverage the new use cases that we develop on Helix. Now, overall, the redesign included a service-oriented approach to both service and operation management, and this affected, in their case, most of the foundation data structures. So they had to change the way that the support groups were organized, the way that the operational categorizations, the service request catalog. So all of that needed to transform. They've also introduced, and this mostly linked to the operations side of things, a new ways of modeling, so leveraging the blueprints in BHAM, etc. So they started leveraging those kind of capabilities, and everything focused on services. So this might seem redundant, right? So talking about services in a service management, but believe me that there's still a lot of organizations struggling to get to this point. So if we can move to the next slide. So what did we get? What did they get out of this, right? So there are many achievements that were accomplished with this migration, with this transformation process. But I would say that at the takeaway as a takeaway from this story, what they were able to get, one of the most, and it was very simple, actually very simple, and it was very important to them, was introducing two different lines of business. So we've introduced the HR line of business and the legal department line of business. The human resources were using ITSM, so everything was a little bit mixed up. So separating those two lines of business was interesting. But then obviously the key was the link between the service management world and the operations management world. So how building a service-oriented strategy, leveraging the new data service model capabilities, enable them to leverage the AIOps use cases and to get the operations events and monitoring everything that we are getting on the BHAM side, bringing on to the ITSM. Now, an interesting aspect also was on the BPPM to BHAM migration. So here, obviously, it was key not to disrupt any of the monitoring in place. So there was like a slicing the elephant approach to this, right? So what was executed was to identify some processes, some services that we could migrate. So these services were modeled, And then we started migrating each of these services in bHome one by one. So we got one service model, we started monitoring, got the patrol agents in place, move it to Helix and monitoring there. So there was this continuous this mix of monitoring on-prem and Helix until everything obviously was migrated to Helix. And then the other key aspect of this was discovery. They were not using it at this point, and this not only enriched their configuration management CMDB, which was having some relationship missing there, but also obviously enable the monitoring side of things. And the last thing is that this was a 6-month project, so for the size of you can imagine that it was a relatively great success. So with this, obviously we'll have I'll be available for Q&A after this, but with this I would hand over to Carlos for another success story, in this case for a banking industry.
Thank you, Jose Pedro. This case, the case that we are going to commenting right now about a banking customer is very interesting due to the ambitious goals set by the customer at the beginning of the project. They wanted to standardize the processes running on the on-premise platform while eliminating the non-supported customization and optimizing integration based on all methods. Additionally, the customer wanted to keep transitional data in the new system. Usually, the logic says that to migrate the transitional data and transform the process at the same time that are incompatible. So we had a challenge in front of us. To tackle this, we chose a two-phase strategy. In the phase 1, we focus on remediating the non-supported customization and migrating the platform to Helix. And in the phase 2, once the customer was in Helix, the processes will be transformed. The success of this strategy was evident in the delivery. Standard workflow migration proceeded smoothly with no significant issues. But in the same way that I commented in the previous case, remediating non-standard customization was a pain in this case. Once again, the Helix Data Manager did its job without major problems, and the data was migrated smoothly. Integration were repointed to Helix. There were more than 60 integrations. One interesting point here is that we spent more effort on managing the status of each integration migration than on the technical migration tasks themselves. Regarding the reporting, Helix operation teams provided assistance in connecting the customer with Helix data, enabling them to adapt their reports effectively. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what was made simple in this project? Okay, the migration of standard workflows, the migration of integrations, and the migration of the data occurred in a very simple way. However, the migration of the non-standard customization was a time-consuming task. The conclusion is that while customization is a tool to adapt the application to the customer needs, it must always be done following the best practices to avoid future problems. In the end, in this case, the platform was completely cleaned and migrated in 6 months. Considering the volume of the data, more than 4 terabytes, the number of integration, as commented before, more than 60 integrations, the global presence across 12 countries, and the extensive remediation effort required, this timeline of 6 months was for sure a success. After the migration to Helix, the customer could shift their focus on processes transformation, and in this way, they achieve both goals set at the beginning of the project: standardize the processes and remove non-supported customization and modernize the platform. This project exemplifies how a well-planned strategy, along with the right tools, can overcome complex challenges and deliver successful outcomes. Now, Jose Pedro is going to explain our latest success history, an example of collaboration with a partner on a retail customer.
Thank you again, Carlos. I know personally how complex this kind of environment can be, and how important it is to adhere to the best practices to make this kind of project simple, as you mentioned. Now, to the last story that I have today, we'll see that there are a lot of things in common with the first story that we saw, so the fashion distribution company. Now, for this iconic department store group that was moving to Helix was all about keeping business up and running with minimum disruption to their current processes. So they were not looking for transformation in this case. Basically, they wanted to leverage the new capabilities and the platform itself. So they wanted to reduce the cost to maintain the platform, etc. Those were the drivers. So mostly around efficiency of the SaaS platform versus the on-prem platform, and then taking this as the opportunity to take advantage of the new functionalities. So it was a textbook use case for a lift and shift approach, right? Where advanced configurations, data integration were all migrated seamlessly using the best practices that we saw before by Anita, and then enable the customer to introduce new process. In this case, the first thing that they did was to introduce a knowledge management process that they didn't have in place, and then leverage other use cases like chatbot or so the virtual agent or other use cases that they wanted to introduce in the future. Now here it was key, as Carlos was saying, that the relationship with the partner. So if you can move to the next slide, please. So before we go through the key takeaways out of this process, I would like to emphasize how important collaborating with partners can be in this kind of activities, right? So the partner had the customer knowledge. They knew all the advanced configurations, their integrations, and they had, and most importantly, they also they trusted our best practices, our strategy. So we've discussed how we should approach this project, going through all the process that Anita showed us, and they trusted this strategy, and their knowledge with our strategy were key to the success of this project. So the simple, in order to deliver this project, so obviously we had to install HDM. We had to go through we used the client gateway as explained to connect into the integrations. And once we had these tools in place, it was a simple migration. So we just took all the customizations. Obviously, there's always something that needs to be remediated to align. The integrations were we simply had to repoint them to the correct to the new environment, and this was done seamlessly and without disrupting the business, which was the key to the customer. So once this is done, this sets the stage obviously to innovation. This sets the stage to reusing the new integration capabilities, to use the new functionalities around, in this case, virtual agent, which was very important. They wanted to start automating some of their requests. But the key points here were lift, let's migrate everything as it is, and then let's bring on the new capabilities. And with this, I conclude the customer success stories. So, and open the stage to any questions and comments that we can.
Thank you, team. So very informative webinar. This is the first of two today. So this is for our APAC and India team. So if you do have anyone that's based in the US or EMEA, we do have a second session. I will share that link. We have had quite a few questions. So thank you for those that have been coming in. I'm just going to unmute everyone. So if you do have questions, you can then ask us, either raise your hand or put them into the chat. I know that we do have a few already in there. So Simon, if it's okay, if I can hand over to you. I know there was one around migrating the gold build. I think Carlos may have been or just about to answer it. I don't know if you want to take that question, either Carlos or Simon.
Yeah, no, I think Carlos is furiously typing an answer. Or,
Okay.
I don't know, it says he's typing an answer. I'm not sure if he is. He looks very relaxed to me. Carlos, over to you.
You're muted, Carlos.
Yeah. Sorry, Simon. I couldn't get it. Can you repeat? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just the question that's in the Q&A at the moment around can the person request BMC support to migrate the gold build without any transaction data? I think, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. In general, we can ask to operation teams to migrate any database, any backup of the database, any staging database to any environment. Okay. In fact, another question that I show in the chat is that is asking if we can move the golden backup to the production environment during the process of the project, and the answer is for sure. In general, we can ask whatever, and the important thing, as commented in the sample, is to define correctly the strategy following the process that Anita commented. Okay, and then we can say that we can do what we want with the backups, the golden backups, the backups with data. We can ask for operation team to restore the database that we want in the environment that we want.
It's just a simple work order, right? The customer or the partner can just execute, ask for a work order to be created. There's obviously a form to fill out, and then that will just be executed by our operations team. That's correct, right?
Yeah. There is a template to ask quickly. Okay, with few fields to ask the request directly, and it's very quick, the process. Okay.
Yeah. But to add to Carlos, so the one interesting thing is how we leverage this kind of migrations or refresh of databases, right? So we've seen that for many customers that we have. So after the initial data migration, so they move that into a QA environment, for example, where they can test and train and start training the people while we execute the remaining steps of the process, right? But they have one environment where they can leverage that to either do some training or to understand if everything is okay. So there are a lot of strategies that we can leverage this kind of database refreshes.
Yeah, hi Josh, Simon, and Carlos.
So
just wanted to understand, we have two types of backups, right? One is a full data backup, including the workflows, and there is one gold build backup, right? So which has only the workflow changes. So we can request for anything at any point of time, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for.
Yeah, and in general, Sarkar, you will restore the golden backup when you are going to move the process forward, okay? Because the data will be loaded at the end of the project, okay? And probably you will need to restore the backup with the data to provide the customer the ability to test, okay, and to provide them an environment to test and to verify all the customization migrated.
Yeah, okay, Carlos.
Thanks, Sakar. Hopefully that gave you the answer you were looking for. Sam, is there any other questions, or does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to raise?
No, I think all the questions have been answered, but obviously we'll open it up to the floor again. If anyone does have any questions, this is a great opportunity. We will be collating all of the questions from both sessions and share them with everyone. Our next session's at 3 p.m, so quite a few hours time. We're going to be doing a second session and we may get different questions that come up. So does anybody else have any questions?
On the SaaS dev staging server, right? So do we need to set up the HDM, or it will be set up by BMC itself?
Can you say that again, Sakar? Sorry.
Yeah, so we have two servers where we will be having HDM, right? One is on-premise server, and the second one is the development staging server on which we will be having the HDM, correct?
Yeah.
So one on-premise we will be setting up, we will be installing the HDM, everything, and on the SaaS side, so BMC will be doing that.
Yeah.
I would need to confirm that, but I think it's deployed, so we don't need to install it. I think it's deployed when we request the server for the HDM. So I think that already includes the actual HDM, but we would need to double check that.
That's correct, JP. You can confirm that it is.
Cool.
So it comes up with the staging server, you mean, right?
Correct. SaaS team will set up the HDM there.
Okay.
Great question.